are rolling.
All right. Welcome to episode 1 of Locked and Loaded with Charlie Lockwood. We're here in Studio 89. We're testing it out.
I like the name to start.
You like?
Yeah,
we'll start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're here. We're live, and we're looking forward to providing a lot of information, having a lot of fun, talking sports. And with that being said, I'm going to kick it over to my guy, my partner, Casey Honigbaum.
That's right.
Lead us in.
Yeah, that's right. My name's Casey Honigbaum. I am here with Justin Arsenault, my co-host, and the biggest thing, our biggest, I guess, piece of information for this show, for this episode. There's a lot of important aspects going on here in Studio 89, but the biggest piece, the biggest aspect, that's going to be joining us today and every week on Monday, 4-time All-American during his days at Syracuse University. He is a 2-time Gold Medalist with Team USA. He was inducted into the Lacrosse Hall of Fame as a truly great player, ladies and gentlemen. Charlie Lockwood. Charlie.
How you guys doing?
Thank you for joining us.
If there were people here, it'd be a standing up.
I was going to say, there would have been a standing. I got to get some sort of soundboard so we could do like applause or something like that.
There were budget cuts.
Do we have a suggestion box in this office?
We can.
We should.
Because I'm going to put my first note in the suggestion box.
Okay.
Well, what is it?
This should be, in my opinion, called Studio 22. Okay, so Studio 89 is not bad.
It could be something where the sign can change outside the studio depending on who comes
How about
in.
this? It could be
Is that in the budget?
Studio 89-22.
We could do that.
That's fine. That works. I
we
like
could,
that.
We could talk
I do
to some
like
people.
That. Yeah,
Okay.
but then what? Well, okay. So my thought process is now we got to think about. Maybe, this is a little teaser, but we got to think about Grilly's number, think about Jamie's numbers. We put all the numbers together.
And what
Studio
does that number
69.
add up to? No, it does not.
I have no idea. No,
Free shirts. Free shirts.
Yeah. Oh man. Well,
Okay.
Anyway, what we're going to be doing on this episode in particular is we want to get to know Charlie. Because Charlie's going to be our co-host every episode.
That's right.
So we want to get to know Charlie, get a little bit, get some of his background, right?
And yes, and before we do that, I think it's pretty important to add.
Yes.
The reason why this show is here is because of 2 companies, Champions Events, premier youth sports tournaments being held up at Legends Field in Oswego, New York. For any coaches out there with teams or organizations, baseball, softball, please, that's the support we get from you guys is competing in a tournament. Register at championsevents.org or .com. Take a look at that. And the other one is Top 100 Sports. One of the things that Charlie is heading as well, being an ambassador on the lacrosse side. But Top 100 Sports, any facilities, organizations looking to bring in a platform that's going to help your players and parents, and also provide really great value to them. Look at Top 100 Sports for that as well. So got to put that out there. This is why we're even here doing those things.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Charlie, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's get into it, man.
I think for myself and I know Justin too, both Justin and I, and that's the interesting thing, I think, where we can start with you is, both Justin and I, baseball guys. To start, obviously, we're talking lacrosse here on this podcast.
Right.
No big deal. Have a lacrosse sweatshirt on. Did interview him once. Again, not to name drop. No big deal. Casey Powell. And again, I should say that Charlie did introduce me to him. So
I was saying you didn't even know who he was 2 weeks ago.
A lot of it is being, Charlie is ushering me into the lacrosse game. I think it's fair to say.
I've told Justin for months, and I'm going to tell you that when everything is said and done here with Top 100 Sports and in the coming months and years, I will transform you guys from baseball guys into lacrosse guys.
It's already starting for me, Charlie.
The beginning of the transformation is apparent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have baseball guys wearing lacrosse
Yeah,
t-shirts and sweatshirts.
Yeah.
I mean, he folded easily.
And before-
though. Like,
and
he
before
was
we-
like
and
right
before-
out of the
But
way.
if you get a good
before
pick,
we
like a
know
good
it-
piece of merchandise in front of me, I'm gonna wear it. So
And before we know it, Casey will be in testing how fast he can shoot a lacrosse ball. He'll be doing wall ball with left and right. He'll have the lingo down. I'm going to get him down on the field this year in the Dome. It'll be great.
Wow.
Okay. Oh well.
To see some real lacrosse up close and personal. So
Wow.
Hey,
we'll convert him.
It sounds
I've
fantastic.
done it before.
Okay. All right.
That's a perfect segue though into the basically the first question we want to ask you, which is, how did you find lacrosse? How did you get your start? Was it, how young were you, and when did you know going off of that this was the sport that not only that you fell in love with, but that you wanted to spend the rest of your life not only working in, but playing?
Yeah, so it's a question that I've been asked a lot. And my story, how I found lacrosse, is unique compared to a lot of the kids that you're going to find today, because most of the kids start so early. It's just like every other sport today. It's so specialized that kids are starting at second, third grade, and they're playing club and all these things. But I went to a local high school here when I was younger, Marcellus, and at Marcellus there was no lacrosse program at the time. This is in the mid to late 80s, and I played baseball. I played center field and pitcher. Those were my two spots on the field, and I really enjoyed baseball. I played travel baseball, and I played at what I thought at the time was high level, and I really, really enjoyed it. Spent many hours in the backyard doing home run derby with all of my friends.
There you go.
Shagging balls. My father would throw them as high as he could up in the air, and I'd go catch them and play countless hours in the backyard. And during one summer, I played Pop Warner football over in Camillus because Marcellus didn't offer a Pop Warner program, so I played in the nearest town, which would have been the neighboring town, Camillus. And so that was West Genesee Pop Warner. And at the same time, I had two younger sisters, and we had a smaller house in Marcellus, and my parents needed to upgrade and get into a bigger home.
Yeah.
And we actually moved to Camillus because of the relationship that myself on the football side and my sisters on the cheerleading side had, started to form with the kids in Camillus. And so when I came over, the very first summer I was there, I asked all of my Pop Warner football buddies where I could sign up for Little League Baseball. Mm-hmm. And I was met with an immediate response of, we don't do that here. We play lacrosse.
Wow.
And so I had never even heard of lacrosse, picked up a stick, nothing. I didn't own a stick, owned nothing, knew really nothing about the sport.
How old were you?
That would have been 7th grade going into 8th grade.
Wow.
So if you want to think about it in terms today, someone starting a sport in 7th, 8th grade is almost unheard of.
It is, yeah.
And so, I picked up the sport, and it seems like it was yesterday, and I've told this story over and over. The first two guys that I had coaching me in lacrosse, one of them was John Zoberti, who's a legend in this area, and another guy was Tom Corey, and he was also at Syracuse, lacrosse player, also a legend. I was lucky enough to have these guys as mentors and coaches my very first summer, and we played at Shove Park, which is right in Camillus, New York, and Shove Park was way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
There was no other youth program in the country that stressed the importance of fundamentals at that age. A lot of the schools, even though we were considered a hotbed of lacrosse in central New York, didn't have a youth program. And the youth program at Shove Park was really, in my mind, what separated back then West Genesee from every other program, not here locally, regionally, or in the state, but across the country. And that's why we're the best. But I had a chance to walk right into that as a young person, had no experience at all with lacrosse. And I'm walking in. My buddies have been playing for 3 or 4 years. They look like they were magicians with the stick. And here I am. I had good athletic ability. I could run, and I was strong and all those things, but I had no stick skills whatsoever. First week of practice, I was so embarrassed that I couldn't cradle and catch and throw like my friends could that I went back to John Zoberti and Tom Corey, my first two coaches, and I told them that I was going to quit and that I was going to go back and play baseball. And I'm not sure if I can say exactly what they told me back then, but I would say that they threatened me to some degree, in a nice way, that I wasn't going to go back. A healthy threat, a threat that I was not going to go back and play baseball, and that they were going to teach me how to play lacrosse.
Okay.
Wow.
And so I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the first year there was a lot of learning for me to do, and it was painful at times because just watching how advanced my friends were and what they were doing. They were light years ahead of me. But the one thing I had going is I was fast.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's my question to you was it because the transition from baseball to lacrosse, is it because of the type of game? Because of it's a little bit more fast paced? Is that something that you gravitated towards? or was it because you went to West Tennessee and they said we do lacrosse here? That was kind of it.
Justin, I know this sounds crazy, but like when
Has
you're
West
that-
Tennessee ever had a baseball program?
They
Just
do
kidding.
now.
They were rivals. When I
They
was
do
going
now.
through, so. I know
When
they
when
do.
I
They have a great
played,
program.
when I played, in fairness, if someone was on the fence, they played lacrosse, and they have a great coach there now. And when
Yeah.
someone's on the fence at West Tennessee now, it's a 50-50 flip of the coin.
Wow.
And West Tennessee baseball is formidable in this area, which I
Yeah.
give a lot of
Yes.
credit
Yeah.
to those
Yeah.
folks over there.
Coach, that's
so
Coach
to
Kevin
answer your
Crown.
question, though, Justin, I played lacrosse probably because of a very healthy peer pressure.
Sure.
My friends were playing, and I wanted to play with them. I didn't want to be left out.
Now these are the days. When I was growing up and going through all the way up to senior year, these were the days before that. When you were playing, were you guys running in lines of two, going down West Tennessee Street in winter storms and like basically psychotic? Was that
Yes.
you guys? I mean,
So let me go from my very beginnings. That's just learning the game, and being shell shocked at how awesome the skills were that 7th and 8th graders and 9th graders had versus the skills that I had, which were zero when I started. Right. Fast forward to my high school days at West Genesee, and we were coached by Mike Masser, who has the most victories ever by a high school lacrosse coach. He's in every single Hall of Fame you could imagine.
Yeah, he's just well known.
Everyone
knows.
He's
Yeah.
the standard in high school lacrosse, and I was lucky enough to call him, be able to call him coach. The thing that he did back then, and I'm not so sure it would have stuck in today's world, but discipline was number one. First and foremost, it was discipline.
Yeah.
And that was from the lines, like you said, Justin. We were side by side, 2 lines. Our socks were pulled up.
Yep.
If anyone had socks that were sagging, it was addressed immediately. It rarely happened because there was
They
probably
were addressed.
they probably
They were there. They were
probably there was a punishment probably
Sure,
associated with
sure.
that. And so everywhere we went, we did things the West Genesee way. And I would say from my 7th and 8th grade year, my modified year up to my senior year, I might have lost 3 or 4 games. We didn't lose very much. And when we lost back then, it was big news. It was almost it was crushing.
It was national news.
It was crushing.
Yeah.
When we lost, and for the other team that beat us,
This is like a Super Bowl win. Yeah.
and if it was regular season or scrimmage, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
That set them up for life.
Yeah.
And there's still some of those guys today.
So talk about
many years later will remind me if they beat me. Now they didn't even have to win a sectional championship. They didn't even have to win a state championship, but they're going to remind me that they beat me. Whenever that was.
Going off of what you were talking about with your lacrosse days at West Jenny, what do you think it was because obviously when you picked up lacrosse as a sport, obviously there's growing pains that go along with that. But what do you think allowed you to not only pick up the sport as quickly as it did, but become, as good as you were at it?
I think any sport starts with, athletes.
Yeah.
My whole thing with sports in general is if you have a gift or you have natural athletic ability, then things like shooting a basketball, catching a football, hitting a baseball, playing lacrosse, catching and throwing with a lacrosse stick, those things can be taught and worked on through repetition. So in my mind, I was able to get through the growing pains because of my athletic ability. And then at West Genesee, because of the reps and the importance of fundamentals, you had no choice but to be very, very good at it, or you were going to get cut.
Sure.
And this went from kids 7th grade all the way through senior. So by the
and
time
the bar is so set high there that you have to everyone knows the deal when you're there.
Good little story here, Justin, just to give you an idea how important fundamentals were.
Yeah.
That during my sophomore and junior year at West Genesee, I wanted to become so good with my left hand. I'm a dominant righty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So during one summer, I was opening up doors with my left hand. I ate with a fork and spoon with my left hand. And I did as much as I could with my left hand, okay? On top of practicing lacrosse reps with my left hand.
Yeah.
I came back my junior year, and I remember distinctively running down the field. I'm a natural righty, running down the field.
Holding the stick in your left.
And I could hear the other coach yelling to his entire team, he's all lefty. he's going left.
Oh, that's fun.
Wow.
And that's music to my ears.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would not only would I put it, I would show it to him.
Yeah.
They
And
would
then-
overplay me, and I'd come back to my strong hand. So you can only imagine. And by the time I got to Syracuse, most of my goals in college were with my left hand, to the point where I have calcium deposits in my right arm.
Oh, wow.
From getting hit so much in my right arm because I was going left.
Wow.
So I was shielding my body going left and scoring that way, and I was
Wow.
getting hit in my right arm. So I can prove that I was going to my left
Yeah.
by the calcium deposits I have in my right arm. But, at West Genesee, you learned fundamentals. And if you didn't stick by those fundamentals, you sat the bench.
Yeah.
And
And
it didn't matter who you were.
And I got to tell you, Charlie, I mean, that story right there, I really hope, and again, we're providing information on this thing, on this podcast. We look forward to a lot of the guests that you're going to be bringing on, too,
Yeah,
by the way.
absolutely.
Some major guests coming on here. But I hope there's kids out there that are listening to this, and it doesn't have to be an all-star or an Olympian or a major athlete that's just going to decide to work on their left side or their weakness, right?
Right.
Anyone can do this. It just depends on how bad do you want it, right? How
mean,
bad do you want to get better,
Guys,
and showcase your skills that you can do it.
Well, because
You know?
right, and it's like you said, you had no choice but to learn this, but you had to do it yourself.
But I
you
took
know?
it the extra.
You went the extra
extreme.
mile, man.
Exactly.
Like I was actually eating. I couldn't write with my left hand.
Yeah.
But I was doing everything, opening up doors, anything that would give me more coordination, brushing my teeth.
Yep.
I did. Everything was done for one full summer with my left.
Wow.
And I tell this to some people, and I think they think I'm joking, but I actually did it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if kids today will go to that extreme measure.
Yeah.
There will be some kids that
The 5% will.
the ones that
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
Right.
will be, in my opinion, winners in life.
Yeah.
Not just in sport.
Because they're going to find a way.
Because they will go to the extreme
Yeah,
in
they're gonna
whatever
find a
they're
way.
doing
Right.
to be successful.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that that was something that happened. And my
Now,
senior year at
you
West
get-
Genesee.
Yep.
Senior year at West Genesee, we're number one in the country. We go undefeated. Nobody beats us, and by a long shot, we were stacked. We had
Just another year.
many guys going Division I my senior year. But just to give you an idea of where our coach's head was, where we were as a program, even with all the accolades that we had on the team and all the wins and all the success, halfway through the season, we played Fayetteville Manlius up at Coyne Field, and it was one of our closest, if not the closest game of the year. It was 7-3, and which
Still a 4-goal win.
so we doubled them up
Sweat that out.
in
Yeah.
a big game. And on our way home that night, when you're on 690 coming from Syracuse University, you're on 690 and you typically go towards the Auburn direction, and you get off at Hinsdale Road. And anyone who's familiar with the west side or even the east side knows where that is. But that particular night, instead of going towards Hinsdale Road and Camillus, we veered off.
You're on the bus.
We're on the bus, on
Okay.
the school bus, heading home, and some of us are actually bleeding, and we're torn up pretty good because back in the day, Coyne Field up there, they called it turf, but it was
Yeah.
actually concrete, and I think they
Oh,
spray
spray
painted green on the.
Probably.
And it was very hard surface, and
I played on it. Yep.
It would cut you up pretty
Like
good
worse
too.
than AstroTurf.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
It was
Next
brutal.
level.
Oh,
so it was a pretty rough game for a lot of reasons. And I noticed I was with one of my buddies, Billy Christ, and we're sitting together. And instead of going right and heading off towards Hinsdale and Camillus, we veered off left, and we were going towards Fairmount. You can veer off and go towards Wegmans and Fairmount. And I
Some
noticed
very upstate New York, central New York terms here,
Yeah.
especially the Wegmans for anyone who doesn't know.
and so everyone started to buckle up their helmets. And
It was
And so I knew
man.
right then and there what that meant, because if you're familiar and you've lived in this area, or you don't even have to be on top of it, but most people are familiar with Westcott Reservoir. It's a huge, it used to be a reservoir in the West Hill area, and
It was the destination to go for
for
sledding.
sledding.
Absolutely.
And if you know anything about winters in Syracuse,
Yep.
that
Brutal.
was the place. You went
Have you
up-
been?
I haven't. No.
It's amazing. You
I
go
Well,
up there-
now they fence it off because there's been issues, but
Okay.
Yeah, kids used to actually get in accidents because you'd get so much speed going down the hill because it's
Yeah.
so big. They would fly into the road.
Yeah.
And that's West Genesee Street.
Yeah.
So a very popular road. So it did become a little bit of a situation. But just to give you an idea and perspective on how tall this hill is, when you get to the top of it, you feel like you can reach out
Yeah.
and touch the nuke plants up in Oswego. Okay? So you're up there. You can see Canada.
Yeah.
From the top of the hill. So you're up there. So we had to get off the bus as a team, and we ran for every goal we gave up that night. We gave up 3 goals. And I remember the stat girls were all upset. You know, they were watching what was going on, and our manager had to run it. And the one thing I remember about this
Wait,
night,
your manager?
yeah, and he wasn't in the best.
Wait. The manager had to run it?
Yeah, I think he made it up once and down, maybe throughout.
Terrible.
my
He made it up.
God.
What did he do?
Well, he's part of the team.
He wasn't managing well enough.
He was
Clearly,
part of the team.
This guy.
And
How old was
literally,
he?
I mean, I know it's cliche and everyone's heard from the managers up through to the coaches.
Yeah.
But in this situation, that's really how it was taken
Jeez.
at West Genesee. So the one thing I remember about that night, and that night, I hate to age myself, was let's just say it was about 30 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. And I can remember like it was 30 seconds ago. Because when we were coming up the hill, and I was in great shape. I mean, I really was in great shape. Let's just say some of the guys on our team weren't in great shape.
Okay.
And to climb this, I'll call it mountain, not a hill.
Yeah.
You were going way up. And by the time we got to the top, we were instructed that we had to run down as a team. So we could run up the hill as fast as we wanted, but we had to wait for our teammates, and then we had to run down
Together. In one line?
together as a team. Okay.
yeah.
So I did my very, very best to get up the hill as fast as I could and get up there way ahead of my teammates, because I knew once I got up there I could rest.
Yeah.
Smart.
And I get up there and you know, there was guys at that time, I remember guys were crawling up the hill at the end, because
Well, you just played a whole game.
and this hill is no joke.
Yeah.
We're
I
talking.
mean,
What's this, at night?
yeah, I mean, you can hang glide off this thing. It's big.
Jeez.
And so we got to the top, and we did that 3 times. And by now, there was people pulling over their cars at West Genesee. They saw that there was a team actually running the hill. And the next day in practice, it was cold and it was rainy, and I'll never forget. He told us that we thought we were way up. We were higher than we were. We all thought highly of ourselves, but in reality, we were lower than the worms in the earth.
Wow.
And so what we did right then and there in that practice,
That will humble you
Yes.
right there.
what we did right then and there is we all bent down and we picked up mud because it was rainy. And, you know, we played on natural grass then. So there was plenty of mud around.
Yeah.
And we were instructed to put it on our face to remind us that that's where we were.
Wow.
Okay. So there was one guy on the team, and I'm not even going to mention his name. He'll know who he is if he listens to this. Didn't really want to partake in that exercise. Didn't want to put any mud on his face. And as a result, was called out, singled out. And for 45 minutes, he was instructed to go over to the baseball field where there was huge mud puddles. And you guys know what those look like back in the day.
Yeah.
And he was told that he needed to roll around in the puddle in the mud for the remainder of practice.
Oh, jeez.
So his practice was over. That's what he did to remind him.
His practice was over.
And that's how he was reminded how low he was. But here's the takeaway. So from running the hills on Westcott Reservoir to letting us know, you know, basically coach was trying to knock us down.
Sure.
We'll say more than a few pegs.
Yeah.
So we ran mud for that practice. We were instructed we needed to wear mud the rest of the year for every practice and every game. So fast forward, we go undefeated. We're killing people, killing everybody, even through the states. We end up at Hofstra University. And we're playing what they considered the game of the century, not the year, not the decade. It was number 1 versus number 2, and at the time it was us and Ward Melville, who's a huge school on Long Island. And we come out to Hofstra, which is pretty much just a concrete-laden place, and it had a nice turf back then at the time. And we come out with our bucket, and right before the game, you know, we got all these crazy mohawk haircuts because that was a tradition at West Genesee when you play a state championship game. And then we start putting this mud. We start caking this mud on our face. As Ward Melville's walking onto the field, they're looking at us.
Yeah.
From upstate New York, we got these crazy haircuts.
And
And
mud
crazy look in
all
your
over
eyes.
your
And now we
face.
got this,
Yeah.
and the mud smelled. I mean, you guys know like the sewer smell mud?
Yeah, we're in Syracuse every day. The plant's right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine that going on your face before
Yeah.
state championship football.
If it's for a state title, I might.
So we did, and I honestly can say that I think that they were a little bit like, oh my God.
That would
What
make
have we
sense.
gotten ourselves into? Score that game, 10-5. We doubled up the team that was supposed to give us the hardest run for the money. And they had great players, and we had great players. And
How many did you score that game?
a few. I was MVP of that game. So
Very humble.
So that worked out well.
No big deal.
Yeah.
No, but that worked out well.
Wow.
So
I think.
Yeah, we
I
haven't
think,
even
No, I just.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those stories where you're like, your mouth is kind of on
just
the
so you
floor.
guys-
It has
your jaws
changed
on the
so
floor.
much.
I was just gonna say that.
guys, just
yeah.
so you know, I got in a lot of trouble, even my senior year. Okay, at West Jenny. I mean, I'm talking lacrosse wise. I got disciplined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, major time, many times, where I was getting yelled at so much. One day my mom was supposed to pick me up for middle of practice to bring me to an ortho or dentist appointment. And she got out of her car. She was walking over to the field to get me, and I was getting yelled at so much by the coach. She literally turned around, got in her car, and went home.
Oh.
I didn't go to the appointment that day. Those are the types of things where he was locked in on you so much. It didn't matter who you were, what your status, how important you were.
Well, that's good.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was that type of mentality and environment.
Building a team.
It was next
Building a
level
culture.
stuff.
Yeah, it's next level.
Really?
That's what
Well,
I mean.
it's
Building a
like-
culture,
yeah.
building a
I
team.
will say most of us players probably at times wanted to either quit
Yeah.
or let's just say we weren't big fans of our coach.
Sure.
When we were immature punks,
Yeah.
kids. But now,
And then you're raising a trophy at the end of the year, and you're like, oh, okay.
well, that is
Right.
huge.
You know.
But when you grow older,
you appreciate
you
that.
get through college, and
Yeah.
then you get married, and then
Yeah.
you have kids and all
Yeah.
that stuff. You look back on that, and you wish you had more guys like that, more teachers,
Yeah.
more females, more males in your life like that,
Yeah.
because they really don't make them like that in the year 2023.
Yeah.
They
No.
don't, because of the situation we're in with
I
our
was
society
just
and
gonna-
things like that.
I was just going to go a step further and just say, I don't know some of the kids that wanted to quit while that was happening. I would say today they
99%
are
of
quitting.
them.
They are quitting. They're walking
Probably.
off the field.
Getting attorneys.
Yeah. Yes.
Their parents
Yes.
are supporting them.
Yes.
Back in the day when I
And
got
the coaches
in trouble,
are not being supported.
Justin, Casey, when I got in trouble
Yeah.
back in the day, my parents defaulted to the superior, to the coach,
Well, yeah.
to the teacher.
Yeah.
And they were on their side, and there was no questions. That's how it was back
Well,
then.
so the interesting thing is, and I've had a wide variety of coaches that I've grown up playing under, and the interesting thing is, some of them are harder on you than others, but then I've found that there are sometimes when even those and I'm sure you've figured the same thing, but there's coaches that are harder on you, and you respect them for different reasons than the other coach that's hard on you, because it's hard to explain almost, but I wonder, did you kind of experience that with your high school coach where you knew he was hard on you and you knew he would get on you, but there was something about the way that he did it, and also not only that, but the success that you had that made it kind of make sense?
I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I was also a huge basketball player and fan of basketball. That during my first 2 years at West Genesee as a sophomore and a junior in particular, there was times where I actually had discussions with my parents about stopping lacrosse
To play
and
basketball?
just to focus on
Oh,
basketball.
wow.
Yes, because some guys that he probably, looking back on it now, that he cared for. I had a teacher a long time ago tell me, it was a phys ed teacher, Joe Carruthers, and I really appreciated him saying this because it stuck with me for many years. He told me, he said, Charlie, the day that I stop yelling at you, that is the day you should be very concerned. And it has stuck with me forever because, and I just got goosebumps even just thinking about it. And I believe that because I think that people, mentors and teachers that care about kids, they care about them so deeply that it sometimes hurts.
Yeah.
And they go out of their way and they're passionate about how they want to teach you. And sometimes, like Casey said, that can be teaching hard. It can be tough love. It can be whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But looking back on it, I know that he was doing it for my betterment. But I'll tell you, as a young kid that was impressionable and, maybe even intimidated by this guy, which a lot of us were.
Yeah.
Sure.
I thought about maybe I should just play basketball. Now, I'm glad I stuck it out.
Yeah.
But I would say most of the guys on those teams that I played on were definitely intimidated by our coach.
Yeah.
Respected him, and usually the outcome was favorable for us.
Sure.
Wins and losses.
So this is unbelievable stuff, and it's
Yeah.
almost turning into now a 10-part mini
I was going to
docuseries.
say
Because
the
we
Charlie
didn't
Lockwood
even
biopic.
broach or talk about college yet.
Right,
How you're
exactly.
playing for the U.S., the USA team and professional, all those things. So why don't we can cut this here?
Yeah, good
right?
idea.
We can cut it here. We got a little snippet of your time in high school and everything else there. Then the next episode, which would be next week,
Talk college.
every Monday.
Every
right?
Monday.
Every
That's right.
Monday it'll be
next
Locked and
week,
Loaded,
the
Charlie
week after
Lockwood.
that, and every
We'll talk
week after
about
that.
college. Your experiences there. And everything you learned, being there, and the history of the Syracuse lacrosse program, which is everyone knows what that is.
Yeah.
So we get into that, and then after that, we can talk about professional and all those things. So,
Sounds good.
How's that sound?
You're awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that's episode 1.
Episode 1. Yeah. It's only up from here.
So
You can only go off
just
from
so
here.
you know,
Yeah.
and I'll say this when we get to our next thing.
Yeah.
I have a story that'll blow your mind away about West Genesee.
What a teaser.
No,
Okay.
He's done this before.
no, I think a lot of them. This one's right up there. This one's right up there. So,
Okay. All
You guys
right.
want to hear
Can't
it?
wait.
Here, we'll cut, and I'll just tell you right now.
Okay.
All right.
You gonna close this
well,
out?
you guys have to tune in to hear that. We'll hear it now, and then you'll hear it later.
And obviously,
Okay.
make sure you subscribe to the channel,
Absolutely.
Top 100
Yep.
Sports Network here on YouTube. So
Yeah,
thanks for
follow
tuning
us
in.
on all of our social medias as well. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, so you can get plenty of us or less of us, whatever you want. Either one.
We'll we'll see all you guys back here at Studio 22.
Next episode Wednesday with we're not gonna let
They'll find out soon.
Okay.
They'll find out soon.
Next
But we've got
episode is
another podcast coming Wednesday, and then Friday, and then after that it's every week. So
All right. Thanks for
make sure you
tuning in.
tune in.